Yo, 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 what is going on, CoD Familia? It is your boy BN. Today, we are going to be touching on, apparently, what is still a hot topic in the community about the recent PvP change that was announced that we covered, I think, yesterday or the day before, as there was some new information that came to light from people on the Discord that were able to share a little bit more, and I thought it would be nice to touch on this because I feel like there's a lot more to really cover when it comes to what is being looked at and viewed at as a big change. And what change are we talking about? Well, to give you a quick recap, right, this was posted again in game via system mail that you can see from at least as of now 13 hours ago, right? So less than a day. And this was the combat rules improvement, right? The big one that obviously a lot of people are looking at is number one, where it says when a legion comes under attack from over 30 enemy legions simultaneously, aka at the same time, last stand will be triggered, increasing damage resistance and reducing damage taken by the legion. The more legions attack simultaneously, the more damage resistance is increased. Again, there's not too much detail outside of that, so I'm sure you can already surmise where a lot of our brains are potentially clogging towards, which is at times can be worst case scenario. However, when we look at some screenshots that I'm going to show you guys now from some discussion that was happening, it does make me curious on a couple things. So number one, I'm going to show you the screenshot. This is taken from, this was like 6 hours ago when all this is going down, right? So I said, I'm just curious where they publicly stated that thousands of players advocated for this specific change. This was in Gen Chat, only because I have not seen that posted anywhere officially yet. Though would love to see a screenshot or a link if someone has one. And then our boy Bob, Uncle Bob says a couple things here. Dark. And then we get, isn't the targeting good for tanks? And then Renegades replied, said they didn't say that thousands asked for the feature. They said that there was overwhelming support of it in the dev fact questionnaire. So now, okay, so it's in the question. Okay, but where's the questionnaire, right? Like, where did they issue that information? Well, apparently it was in the, hang on, it's not this one. It's the developer. I don't know if it's this one here. Yeah. So I think it was this one in Q&A number 17. So if I was to click on follow this link and you want to participate in the survey, again, it's been 4 days or so. I wonder how many surveys people submitted that. But again, based on the screenshot, they're saying that thousands, that there was overwhelming support for it. Okay. I mean, obviously it would be nice to know what that means. Like, I don't know if they ever have considered publishing the results, even if it's just like the multiple choice ones to show like how many people were advocating for something over another. And we're going to touch on that in a moment. So then we get to the next screenshot I want to show. So Sawuda says, don't worry, majority of kings already spoke up against this change. So apparently stating, now I haven't confirmed this with any other kings or queens, and I don't know every single person that's in the king shot. I know a number of people that are, but Sawuda's making it seem as though they have already addressed this and obviously advocating for being against it. Okay, that's obviously great to hear that there is support for that within the Kings group, within the High Kings group. And I'll touch on that a little bit more later. Renegades then says, direct quotations. Dev said that the result of their questionnaire shows that 90% players are willing to have this change. Okay, but first off, how was the question asked? And then what was the response? What was the response? And so what we'll do near the end is maybe we'll go through the player survey and see exactly what was being asked there and maybe do a little bit of fill out ourselves. Following this, I advised people here to take the survey and express their opinions productively, since according to the questionnaire, thousands of players vote for excited about this change. It will still go live as scheduled, right? And then this is what Renegade said it was mentioned today. He also said feedback is still being gathered and will be forwarded after the feature is tested by the player base. Okay. There are two important things here to mention. And we talked about this yesterday. I believe it was yesterday. Number one is that they're saying feedback is still being gathered and will be forwarded after the feature is tested by the player base. Now, let's be clear. They didn't say that. They didn't say this was being tested. What did they say? They said, in their own words, combat rules improvement and feature tests. They divided two different sections to tell you one is permanent and being added, and the other one we're testing. Now, what we talked about in the previous video was this would have been a lot better, and this would have been received. I don't know if better is the right word, but it would have been received not as poorly. This is like a soft skills, just like how you're disseminating information hurdle. Like this is a massive road bump that they have made a couple times already, just in how they deliver information and their word choices. This can be improved. There is opportunity here. And what we said is all they needed to say was, look, there are some things we'd like to test based on feedback that we've been getting from the community in the newest SOS 5 season, or you could say for everyone's next KVK season for one, we're going to test this feature out, right? And then we're going to collect feedback, and then depending on the feedback, we'll either keep it in the game or remove it. That would have been a better way to go about it, and it would have been nice to see what some of those numbers were, like saying, oh, well, we got thousands of replies, 90% of people were in favor of this. Now, keep in mind, it also depends on how the question was asked. Was it multiple choice? Was it a simple yes, no? There are factors that you have to look at. It's not as black and white as they might be making it out to be. But that, for me, is number one, is that if that's true, based on what Renegades is saying as a quote taken from them, that's not what was stated in the official system mail. And the challenge is that the official system mail goes out to every single player in the game. Not every single person is on the Discord and is going to be able to read this, right? Okay. Number two is when we talk about the question shows that 90% of players are willing to have this change. Okay, this leads into my next screenshot, which again, I thought Abda brought up a fantastic point here, which is, so S1 players voted in that questionnaire. I think Barracuda probably fake data, one crying Kraken. But then Abda says new players or S1 players having rights to vote about game mechanics is wild. And I reacted to this basically saying, yeah, that do be facts though. And I say that because if you are a brand new player to the game, this is not saying that you should not be allowed to vote or to have a say. But when you don't have as much time put in as other players, and you haven't had the chance to play your account out, play through multiple KVK seasons, your feedback that you provide, depending on the questions being asked, this is important, can be limited and skewed. It may not be sufficient, is what we're trying to say, compared to someone who's played through 3 KVK seasons and, again, is very active, is constantly growing their account, participating in a lot of events. I absolutely agree here that depending on the questions asked, some of these questionnaires and surveys should be limited to where only people that are in Season of Strife, which, again, let's be fair, that's basically by the time you get to your official Season 4, should be allowed to answer. And then other questionnaires should be open to everyone. But you also have to keep in mind that we don't know. The other way to do this as well is you could say, well, only people that are at CH16 or CH25 can answer a questionnaire. I also feel that maybe there should be other restrictions or other safeguards, that's probably a better word to use, in place, so that way you can't have, hundreds of farms or hundreds of bot accounts that technically could just make a bunch of accounts and then they submit feedback, right? So it's like, what level of vetting is being done? Are you allowing someone who is at 8,000 power to fill out these surveys and that's taken into consideration? So that's another side of it. And that's why, again, we don't know that information. But the fact is that I get these surveys on my scouts, so they're like at 8,000 power. So yeah, and I can let me see here real quick, right? So where's my? Oh gosh, here. This is what I'm gonna do, just so I can show you, right here. I'm gonna go to my S1. scout real quick. And I'm going to pull this up just so you can see, and it's not just me saying it, right? So I'm going to load this bad grill up here. I'm just going to go over here. This is my S1 account, right? And we'll, oh gosh, dang it, I have to go through this tutorial. Oh, my face hurts when I go through this stuff. Oh, I should have thought about an older one that I visited recently. Yes, I know. People are like, boss, you have to do this every time. Dude, I have to do this and dudettes. I have to do this every time. Yeah. Anytime I just haven't been or haven't visited a kingdom for a minute, yeah, I have to go through this process. Okay, so if I click on this, system mail, right? Okay, bam. Okay, I'm just going to look at all the system stuff, right? Game update notice. Okay, here's one. We're looking for the one on 620, right? So here you go. Here's Q&A number 17, right? Bam. Follow this link. I could submit a survey. I'm at, okay, this one's at 43,000 power, right? But still, very low. But it just shows you that, again, even a new account that isn't really leveled will still be getting this to submit. It's not like it's not allowing for me to fill it out or anything like that. Now, again, so we move forward. Now I get to the last one, which Renegades, this appears to be forwarded or potentially quoted from the HOK chat, which says, which is a response, I believe, from the dev team, the impact of the last stand mechanism may not be very significant in most battles, as its trigger condition starts with 30 legions and the effect slowly increases as the number of legions grow. This mechanism is not intended to restrict players' concentrated strategies, even though it basically does. Regardless of how much it targets it, of how much impact it has, it still affects it. For players being concentrated by a large number of legions, with this buff, they may survive for a few more seconds, but it will not have a major effect on the overall gameplay or the result of combat. In general, for those targeted legions, the battle experience might be slightly improved, as they won't be eliminated instantly. So keep in mind, you have to look at this from two different ends of the spectrum. One side is where, okay, if I'm free to play and I'm thinking to myself, damn, if I'm going to get, 30, 40, 50 people attacking and they're just like really good, very diligent, single focus firing units down, right? Okay. If I'm free to play, I'm probably thinking, man, okay, now my units are going to be able to survive a little bit longer, which means I'll probably be able to do a little bit more damage or maybe a little bit more counterattack damage. Okay. I have a little bit more survivability. I have a little bit more sustainability. Awesome. If we go to the other side of the spectrum, now you have to consider, well, what does that impact have on whales, on people that basically have like T6 max accounts, right? And or are in any kind of KVK situations where there is a level of imbalance, because keep in mind, it's not about, this is the important thing. It's not about the fact that you are buffing or providing a universal buff. You also have to consider access and account level. So what does a player who is already kind of at, like they have every hero unlocked, they have the best gear, they have the best artifacts, they got the best war pets, they got basically all S tier skills or S and A tier, etc. versus people that may not have as much of those. So you also have to consider that this is going to impact that as well, because if a team that's weaker, or again, I guess either, maybe weaker is probably the easiest way to put this, but the idea is that there can be some imbalance where the people that are on the higher end can also reap those rewards. Again, yes, it is universal, but I just want to be very clear here that there's a big difference between someone who's a free-to-play, who's surviving a couple more seconds, and the overall impact they have on the battlefield versus someone who has a max account and the best of the best stuff, who's surviving for a few more seconds. You can't sit there and tell me that those two are equal, right? And I'm not trying to make the case that they are. And yes, you could also make the argument that, well, again, every KVK is going to have some whales in it, depending on how many, right? And yes, you can say that there is some margin of error where, there's obviously number 1, number 2, number 3, and so forth, KVK groups for a reason, right? So you're not going to get, someone who's like 10 million power as a kingdom getting put into like 10 billion being put into 20 billion plus KVK groups. Yes. But there is still going to be impact. That's the point. So, and this is what I stated before. My whole thing about this was Why do you need to add this in? Someone had mentioned, someone, I think Tiny, or someone, I thought, I posted something on COD Gen Chat saying that, oh, well, they're doing this change because they're trying to address the area in which they are losing the most amount of players in. Really? I had no idea that they're losing players, even if that's true, from this area. So that's my thing, is like, where's the explanation? Where's the change coming from? Where's, like, what data are you collecting that, and what are you seeing that is all of a sudden saying, which again, let's keep in mind, the game, it's not like the game just came out. The game has been out for what, going on 3 years now, if you want to count people who played in beta, right? But obviously 2+ years at minimum. The game has been out now. Why was this never considered or addressed or attempted to be added in prior to today, prior to a couple days ago? You can't sit there and tell me that if all of a sudden you've had all this data, because again, I have to assume that they have to have some kind of data that indicates this. It's not like, I mean, unless this thing, what's worse to me is if, and I hope it's not this, because I just think that would be very short-sighted, right? It feels like that wouldn't be the best objective view of it, is if this was the first time they ran a survey where they asked this particular question, they got what they stated was overwhelming feedback on this change. And it was the first time you ever asked the question, the first time you ever got the feedback. And now you're making what feels like a shotgun action and decision to change it immediately. Dear Lord Almighty, I hope that's not the case. Yeah. So now again, the one thing I will say on the other side of this, to be fair for both sides, because I did say this yesterday, is, or sorry, the day before, is that if something like this is the case, and let's say there is some truth to where there's a lot of players out there that I haven't seen yet, right? Apparently there's a large number of people out there, but we don't know. And so let's say that's true in this side realm of us just going down a rabbit hole. And there's a lot of players out there who feel like, okay, my units are dying a little bit too fast. I'd like for them to stay alive a little bit longer. Okay. You don't need to create a brand new feature. All you need to do is just increase HP and defense stats on the troops themselves. And just increase some HP and more defense stats. And you could do that for things like physical and magic resist. And however else you need to take it. You don't need to come up with some brand new feature or some buff. Just raise some of the point values. Like, what are we doing? Why are we trying? Like, why are we working smart? Why are we working harder, not smarter? And that's how it feels like to me when I'm objectively looking at this. Okay, but again, I think the other part of it, and some of you have to let me know if you agree with this or not, is part of me feels like they just came out of nowhere with this change, right? There's a big difference when you are taking a more molasses, slow approach to integrating and disseminating and planting seeds. Like, it would have been one thing if, like, for example, they came out and they said, hey, listen, we'd like for people to fill out this survey. These are some of the types of questions that we have in this survey. It's very important that as many of the community fills it out, because we are going to be basing our upcoming tests, in-game tests, on survey. Like, if they did something like that, you know how many people would probably run to a survey to go and fill it out because they would know its potential level of impact. And at the same time, the dev team would have covered themselves by saying, listen, we are going to potentially run tests based on the feedback we get. Like, that's a great way to position it. And I bet you'd get a lot more surveys that are submitted. And then you do something like that. And then you say, okay, and then you wait, you give it a week or 2 weeks, however long, right? You collect everything. Then you come out with part two. Part two is, okay, based on the results, here are the results that we got. Based on the results, we think these 3 or these top areas are the ones that we and the community are most interested in wanting to test. Okay, awesome. We will provide more information soon on when these tests will be happening, but they will happen in limited capacities. whether it's for a season, whether it's for a period of time, and then we'll collect feedback from the community to hear from you on how it went and what you liked, not like, to consider its viability going forward, right? Or its integration into the game. Okay, that's part 3. And then part 4, you come out and you say, okay, the testing is going to happen on these kingdoms or these upcoming KVKs, and it's going to happen for this season. Again, this, and then they give a little bit more information. This is some of what you can expect to see, right? So they either give a little bit more, or they say this is a little bit more of what you can expect to see, or they come out, they either say that and they come out with like all the information, or they say we're going to release the full information on everything that's going to be tested upcoming. Okay. And then you wait near the end of the KVK and you say, okay, now we're at the end of the KVK. We would love for all kingdoms that participate in this, where they would only send the survey out to those kingdoms, and they'd say, listen, we would love to have your feedback. Right? Please let us know about this. And bam, there you go. Like, that's it. Like, that's how you do it. It's not rocket science. You know what I mean? So, like, that's how if I was running my own game, that's how I would do it. Because when you do it like that and you break it up, people don't feel like they're getting, caught out of left field, right? Like they're getting caught off guard. You're communicating appropriately. You're being transparent. And you're giving people plenty of time to digest, where things aren't all of a sudden like, oh, it's do or die. We have to make a decision right now. We have to do it, or it's just never going to work out. No. Anyways, I'm probably rambling a little bit at this point. But I just wanted to state that I feel like overall, this could have went down so much better and a lot easier to the community, for how the community feels, myself included, than how everything has played out so far. Yeah. Right. So, yeah, I mean, again, my official stance, and I stated this, whatever I said the day before 2 videos ago, is that I just don't think this needs to be in the game. And again, if feedback is saying otherwise, that doesn't mean I'm against it being tested. What I'm saying is that based on what we know right now, this feature is absolutely not a priority. It's just not. There's a number of other things that I'm sure kings and queens, myself, other creators, other fighters, other players can point to and say these things are way more important to be either tested or to be added or to be adjusted or removed from the game, versus if you're weighing that up against this last stand mechanic. That's my viewpoint. Okay, that's it for me. Let me know what you guys think down below. I hope you enjoyed this one. Curious how many people are vibing with us and how many people are like, no, maybe I actually do like this, and I would love for this to be. And again, it doesn't matter to me what side of the fence you fall on, but I'd love to hear from you. So let me know. That's it for me. As always, until next time, we'll catch you later.